Good evening and salutations, my B&B fans. I'm gonna be honest. I actually like this episode. See, I knew I didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I knew I didn't. Um, Considering the other two shows that I watched, and I was highly disappointed. I felt like this was gonna be the saving grace. Um, Now let's start off with Sheila. Let's start off with Sheila and Lee. So Lee realized that she messed up. And even though she snitched trying to cover up, she's like, no, I was just talking to the pharmacist. What are you talking about? And Sheila's like, no, you lied to me. I trusted you, and you lied to me. So they get into this back and forth argument. And after a while, Leah's like, you're the one that killed Finn. You almost killed him, and this, that, and the third. Because Sheila is just done. Sheila's like, no, that's my son. Da, 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 da. They use this argument. After a while, Sheila's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. And she finally decides to strangle Lee. Now I'm standing there and I'm just like, finally, a villain that decides enough is enough. Enough of the chit chat. Enough of the monologuing. Let's just get down to business. Let's just end her and just be done with it. So I kind of clapped my hands for a minute, like, so she starts strangling her. And Lee finally gets the upper hand, and she hits her. They go back and forth, but Lee gets the last hit, and she runs out the door. So she gets into the car. Sheila's not that far behind. I'm just thinking, it's not like you have a really old car. This vehicle should start a lot faster than the way it is. So she finally starts the car up. She finally gets going, and now Sheila's at this point like, no, you're not gonna get away from me. I'm like, Sheila, what you plan on flying? Like, what do you plan on doing? But I think the guy's name is Mike. He comes in, and he's all like, "Oh, how you doing, beautiful?" Yada yada yada. And she was like, "Yeah, I need to borrow your car." So at this point, we all know what's gonna wind up happening. Okay, we all know what's gonna wind up happening, especially given the conditions and everything like that. Sheila runs her off the road, but it's done in this way where it's just like, what did I just watch? Lee is trying to get away. She realized that Sheila's behind her. And instead of paying attention to the road like a normal person would, she's all like, no. Da, 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 da. She's looking behind her. She's saying stuff. And I'm just like, bro, why don't you keep your eyes on the road? Like, what are you doing? You're in the car right now. You're safe. It's amazing how fast Sheila caught up there. You almost sit there and think that she's driving a sports car. Um, but the way that Lee gets like ran off the road, it's like the car catches on fire, and I'm like, what? Like, was she had a rocket launcher? How did that happen? I'm generally gonna sit there and rewatch that scene again because the car catches on fire, and somehow it goes off the road into like the river or the sea, the water or whatever. And I'm just like, where are they driving to? Like one minute they were on like, I'm assuming the highway because there's other cars and you hear traffic and everything. And next minute it's like they're driving towards the docks, and I'm just like, what? It was such a confusing scene, but it was so hilarious that it was one of those things. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a pass. I'm gonna give it a pass for a couple of reasons. One, the other two soap operas were just huge disappointments, and as much as that scene really didn't make any sense, it was so enjoyable that I had to just let it slide. I had to just sit there and be like, you know what? Normally I would nitpick the living hell out of a scene like this, but it was done in such a hilarious way that I'm just like, I'm gonna let you rock. I'm gonna let you rock. I'm gonna just let that go. So now you see the car in fire, going, sinking into the water, and Sheila just stand there monologuing like she usually does. And I'm just like, I don't think this is going to be the end for Lee. I think that this is probably, she probably just swam to whatever, swam to safety or whatever. Uh, Listen, if they didn't get rid of Finn, which I felt like they should have, because he doesn't really add anything to the show, but whatever. If they're not going to get rid of Finn, then they're not going to get rid of Lee. So Carter proposes to um, Paris. And after Paris is all surprised and shocked and everything like that, she says yes. And I'm gonna be completely honest. Does anyone actually feel bad for Paris at this point? Like, does anyone really feel bad for Paris? Because we all know that Carter's only marrying Paris to get over his feelings for um, Quinn. But like normally, if this was a person that was a blank slate that I didn't know, and you're watching this man marry this woman to get over another woman, I feel like, bro, you ain't doing us males any favor, babe. Like, what are you doing? Part of me wants to feel bad for her because I don't think that she deserves that. I don't think any person deserves to um be married to somebody only for the fact that they're only marrying them to get over somebody else. Okay, but part of me doesn't feel bad for her because it's like, not that long ago, Zende wanted to marry her. And she was all like, "Oh, what are you talking about? I don't want to get married. I'm too young for that. I just want to sit there and have some fun and things like that. I want to keep it casual, not serious or anything like that." Even though she did not mention that when they first started dating, um, she really didn't want marriage. She didn't see marriage in the future. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to do that. She wanted to travel. She wanted to do all the other stuff. Carter says in this really terrible proposal, he wants to marry her. And now she's like, "Yay, I'm married. Da, 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 I'm so happy." It's like, what? With Zende, it was like a ball and chain. You felt like you was going to an execution. But with Carter, he says in this really terrible way, as far as proposing to her, and you're over the moon. That this guy literally pulls out all the stops, takes you to this really nice place that um really nice restaurant and everything like that, sets the mood and everything like that, just being totally romantic. One of those things where it's like, yeah, take notes from him. I don't really know about marriage now. Da, 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 da. He does this and the thing is, the way he talks, the way he's speaking, he's just like, we got to get married. I want to be happy, and this. It's like he's not referring to her when he's talking about marriage. He's just saying things like marriage and future, and let's spend the rest of our lives together or anything like that. But he never really sounds like he's excited about it. It seems more like this is an act of desperation. Like when you go back and you rewatch it, you rewatch the proposal, you can tell he's not talking in a way of, "I want to marry you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. You make me so happy. You make me so glad to sit there and just get out of bed." Any one of those notions would have been great. He said none of that. And this girl ate it up. Okay? She ate it up. And I'm just like, what? Now, been watching the channel. You know how I feel about Zende sometimes. He comes across as a bit pretentious. But given the way that Paris was treating him, throughout the whole time of them being together, and him feeling so insecure, it made me sit there and wonder, is that why he acts the way he acts? But you had a guy that wants to sit there and give her the world, and she acts like, oh, I don't want to sit there and really be with him because marriage is scary in a prison. But when Carter says in a really bad proposal, yeah, sure, I'm so happy, you're my fiance. I can't believe I'm using that word. And it's like really? Because when I look at it as a whole, it gives this really bad vibe of nice guys finish last. Okay, nice guys finish last. I don't know. That's just my take on the whole thing. Carter versus Zende. I didn't know that. Why his mom is Quinn. I don't really understand how that. Anyway, he's back in town. He's wondering why Quinn isn't asking like 1,000 questions or anything like that, because Quinn doesn't really have things like she doesn't really understand things like boundaries. They get to talking, and Wyatt knows that there's something off with her, and Quinn talks about how she's worried about Carter and everything like that, and yada yada yada. And Wyatt's like, you have a husband. Why are you worried about another man for? And particularly that man. And Carter, I mean, and Quinn is all like, well, we're friends, and yada yada yada. I'm allowed to care about him. He's such a good person, yada yada yada. And he's marrying Paris, and sooner or later she opens up herself to just exposing her feelings, and not really exposing her feelings, but just that there's more to it than just Quinn's concern. And pretty much Quinn kind of blabs out that Carter's only marrying Quinn. I mean, Carter's only marrying Paris to get over his feelings for Quinn. Now, at some point, Quinn winds up meeting up with Carter. And Quinn's like, did you do it? Did you propose to her? Like, why does that matter? I don't understand. You sit there and talk about your commitment is to Eric and this, that, and the third. So like, why does it matter that much? You act like he's going to the guillotine or something, like he's getting married to someone. In reality, there are people that are married together and they're not exactly in love with each other. They just don't want to be alone, and they like each other enough to. And that sounds really depressing, but they like each other enough to want to spend time with each other. They're not exactly each other's first, second, or third choice. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of sad marriages in the world, but it's not like Paris is a terrible, awful person. But Carter's all like, oh well, it'll. He pretty much just snipped there saying it will kill two birds with one stone because he can get over it. He can get over his feelings with Quinn by being with Paris, and also will keep Paris' mouth shut. Like as far as like her questioning, Quinn and her marriage and everything like that. It'll kind of just silence that down because Carter's all like, oh, I'm gonna be totally devoted to her. And I'm like, what? Now we all know that Eric is out there, um, pretty much knocking boots with Donna, and at some point, that's all gonna get exposed. It's gonna get exposed, and the minute it does happen, the minute it happens, Quinn is gonna be like, "Hey Carter, you you still want dibs? You still want so we still go?" I make a joke out of it, but how far am I? You know what I'm saying? Like, how far is the joke from reality? When Quinn realizes that Eric is cheating, she's gonna leave him, and she's gonna run right back to Quinn. Right back to Carter. question is Carter gonna be like, hey Paris, listen, I know I want to marry you and everything like that, and well, the truth of the matter is, I was only doing it to get over my feelings for her. But since she's free, no harm, no foul, right? We still good. We still got the office. We feel right. Hey, still friends. I wonder how this whole thing is gonna turn out. I am so glad. I am so glad that I actually started watching the show again, especially given the fact that, I mean, on top of the fact that two of the episodes, well, two of the soap operas today were disappointing to say the least. But I'm so glad that I actually am watching the show again. And I'm just like, man, even though all the problems and all the silliness of this episode, for 18 minutes, it actually beat two shows that are 35 minutes. And I'm still just wondering, how is that even possible? But, yeah. Hmm, That's about it. I feel like that's about it. I was going to sit there and say this random, screw it, I'm going to sit there and say this random comment. And granted, this was an old episode. Um, because they didn't show any new episodes yesterday, and I think this was like the first episode when they showed like Ridge or whatever. And the girl at the bottom was like, even with all his rigid acting, like his bad acting, and him just being an asshole, whatever, he's still my guilty pleasure. And I'm just like, wait, so you tell me that the guy that has bad acting and really isn't a good person, you still like them? I just, and granted, I'm assuming that it must have been a looks thing because I'm just like, how do you like a character that just has, well, how do you like someone that has bad acting and isn't a good character? Like, I mean, I get looks and everything like that, but I'm like, whoa, there's other avenues for that. Like, I mean, I look at General Hospital and I'm like, oh, you got Kelly Monaco or whatever, but there's a lot of times where I will sit there and literally go hard on her. Now, yeah, the girl looks fine and everything like that, but still, like, I'm not gonna just take it easy on them because they look good. I mean, hell, I was even giving Portia, a lot of smoke, and Portia's pretty bad. But I get it. Everyone has their different perspective and everything like that, and I'm not really trying to dump on this person too much. But like when I was sitting there reading, I was just like, you just pretty much described why you shouldn't like this character. But okay, bro. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts out in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.